Hello, and welcome to DeKalb Talks Tourism. We're very excited today to have a special guest, Becky Sowemimo. Sowemimo. With Tismanakis, you think I could do this? Becky Sowemimo.
Mm-hmm.
You right?
Yep.
All right.
You got it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move into where you're working.
Sounds good. So I am a mother of a beautiful baby girl. She'll be 3 in October.
Wow.
I'm a singer, a lover of all things games, both video and board. And I am the director of events at Distillery of Modern Art, located in downtown Chamblee.
Well, before we get to that, what's your favorite things to sing?
80s power ballads, I would say. So as long as Total Eclipse of the Heart is on the karaoke list, then I'm good to go.
So that's Air Supply, right?
Heart.
Okay.
Bonnie Tyler. Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. The other, Alone by Heart is my other karaoke go-to.
Okay. So now tell us a little bit about how the Distillery of Modern Art got formed and what exactly is it?
Absolutely. So we are many things. We contain multitudes at the distillery. We are first and foremost a craft spirits distillery. So we distill 7 different spirits on site, 2 types of vodka, 3 types of whiskey, gin, and an Amaro, which is an Italian-style herbal liqueur.
I was wondering what that was when I was looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when our owner-founder, Seth Watson, let me start that again. So our owner-founder, Seth Watson, comes from the event production world. He used to co-own an event production company that would do audio-visual, lights, and other things for private events around the city. And he was getting tired of hosting events at the same types of venues over and over again. So he wanted to marry his professional expertise in the event world with his passion in the whiskey world. Mm-hmm. So his original idea was to open a whiskey-specific distillery attached to a private event venue. Now, that's going to be challenging because whiskey can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years to mature to be able to sell. And you're just not going to make enough money hosting private events to support your second stream of revenue, which is going to take years to be ready. So that's when he expanded the spirit line from bourbon and rye, those 2 spirits, to the 7 that I mentioned, because vodkas, gin, Amaro, and our corn whiskey that we make, they don't take as much time, and in some cases nearly at all time, to age to be able to sell. So once he had the spirit lineup and the event space, this is in 2017 when the idea is starting to form. So in 2018, Georgia State Bill 85 is passed. Now, breweries and distilleries can sell products directly to consumers.
Well, that was one of my questions, so we got that one.
Exactly. So before that time, you would have to go in, and so I remember I went to college here. I went to Emory, and so I've been in the Atlanta area for a long time, and so I recall going to a brewery, and you would pay a certain amount of money for a tour, and with that tour would come, listeners, I'm doing air quotes, free tastes of beer. That's how they circumvented that law before 2018. So once State Bill 85 is passed, now you can just come into a brewery, sit down, order a beer, or in our case, you can come to our tasting room, sit down, order a cocktail. So then we have the private event space, the distillery, and our tasting room. Now, in thinking of the branding, what's the mission, what's the vision of the space overall? Seth is a huge fan of modern art, and he really likes pairing spirits with art because of their subjectivity. So you and I could taste the exact same spirit and have completely different opinions about it, and the same thing with art. So we could be looking at the same piece of art and have completely different opinions about it. And he also looks at our style of crafting spirits as an art form. So he really liked the pairing of those two themes together, which is when the brand of Distillery of Modern Art was born, and also the plans were added to open an art gallery on site as a part of the entire space.
Wow.
So we have a 750 square foot art gallery on site. We rotate our exhibitions every 2 months. We only work with local artists, and we don't take a commission on anything that they sell. It's a commission-free gallery. So a lot of art galleries are going to charge anywhere from 40 to 60% in commission, and that automatically eliminates a certain amount of local artists who just can't afford that.
Right.
So our space was really designed to be a community collaborative art space. And so it's a win-win for both of us. The artists, of course, get a space to show their work. We get ever-changing decor. We also get access to new groups of guests because, of course, friends and family of the artists are going to come through to see their work. And it's also a great space to have a nice, intimate, private event. So we love the space, and that rounds out those 5 different things, all round out what makes the Distillery of Modern Art.
You've already gave me tons of questions.
I can't wait.
So I do want to talk about the number of people. Before I get to that, since we talked a lot about artists, how do you find them? How do you vet them? How does that occur? Do you work with an organization or?
So we have a wonderful operations manager, Mary Howard. She herself is a visual artist, so she curates the gallery.
Okay.
So we do it in a couple of different ways. Mary has kind of a portfolio of people she already knew about when she started curating the gallery. We actually have a submission form. So to any local artists out there, if you just go to distilleryofmodernart.com/Watson-gallery, then you can fill out a submission form and just submit a few examples of your artwork. And also, people will just come into the bar, leave their card, or a friend of a friend will come in and say, I have to introduce you to such and such artist. There's also the Urban Art Collective, which is up the street from us. They've been a great resource in terms of finding local artists. And then really it's just a question of Mary and Seth sitting down and looking at the artists, and really it's about style, right? Does this artist's style match with the style and the vibe of the distillery? And so it really is up to personal preference. And then past that, Mary does an excellent job pairing the two artists together. So you can see right here, we have 2 different artists' art on screen right now, but you can see how well they go together with each other. So it's a really thoughtful process of her really creating an atmosphere, a show, right? We actually are in the midst of changing over our shows, and our upcoming show features 2 artists who are also architects.
Oh.
So she put those 2 artists together for that reason, to be able to really look and inspect their art and think, okay, what is it about them being architects that might inform the artwork that they're
I would love
showing?
that. I'm going to be an architect, so I'm an architect wannabe, I guess.
All right. Well, you're going to have to come by and check it out. It's coming. They're hanging in the gallery this week. So when we open on Thursday, July 6th, the artwork will be up and you can come and check it out.
So usually how many artists can you combine together? Normally just the 2? Or?
It depends. That's the beauty of having Mary as our curator, also being a full-time staff member, as opposed to kind of working maybe outside of it, is that she has the control to put up what's best for the gallery. Like, we're going to showcase a group of 12 different Asian American artists in September and October, in conjunction with this Asian advocacy fund doing a launch party for their organization. So by them doing their launch party in our space, we have the space to showcase the artwork of these 12 students. So we're going to do things a little differently than we normally do. So that's one of the great things about being so new and almost being kind of in that startup feel is that we have a lot of control over how we present ourselves to the community and what we want to show.
So you launched right into it, your watch party or any type of event. How many people can you put in if you're using the whole facility, or how do you handle that part?
That's a great question. So in our Watson Gallery, we can fit 40 guests and fewer. So it's a great space for a more intimate event. If you're doing maybe a board retreat or a birthday party, even a small intimate wedding. Our tasting room can fit around 75 guests. And then our private event space, the Rothko room, that can fit anywhere from 200 to 225 standing. And then it obviously goes down from there based on whether or not you're having a wedding reception with a huge dance area, then you're looking at about 100 guests. If you're doing a mixture of standing and seating in that space, you're looking at more like 150 to 175. And you can also rent out the entire space, all 3 public-facing spaces. That also includes our covered patio as you enter the building. That's 300 guests.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very nice.
Yeah.
So you have a great event space right in downtown Chamblee.
Exactly.
The uniqueness of the art plus the spirits being created right there. And then you have a tour.
Absolutely. So one of the things that guests notice as soon as they walk in is that they can see our 2 beautiful copper stills. So we have a lot of glass around the distillery, a lot of mirrors, a lot of windows. It's not only fitting with our modern aesthetic, but it also allows us to showcase the production piece. I mean, the amount of times people will walk in and say, are those real or are they for show? I was like, they better be for real. So guests are able to see our stills from the public facing side, but we also offer tours of the production side. So for $15, it includes a welcome cocktail, a 45-minute tour through the production spaces. So those are not open to the public. We show you our tanks where our whiskey process begins, our grain mill where we mill different types of grain, our still room, the bottling line. So we take you through the entire production process. And then that is finished off with tastes of our spirits. So that's only $15. It takes an hour and it's a really great experience. So we're all about experiences at the distillery. It's not just about coming in to have a great drink, because we know you're going to have that, but it's also about having a great experience. So you walk around, you see these thoughtful pieces of modern architecture down to the light fixtures, the pattern on the floor. There's even our ductwork is beautiful. Our ductwork has this beautiful, almost honeycomb pattern on top of it, because the ductwork's got to be there no matter what. So
True.
Why not dress it up and make it seem like it's meant to be a part of the entire aesthetic? So when guests come to the distillery, they can stay in the tasting room and have a great view of our bar, great view of the stills, and sit and have a great time. And they can get up and they can peruse the gallery. They can scan the QR code on an art piece that takes you directly to the artist's website, and they can buy a piece of art while they're at the gallery. We make it extremely easy for people to do that. They can walk through our event space and look in, and even if there's not an event happening, normally the lights are off, of course, but people can look in and say, I've been thinking about where I want to have my 50th birthday party. Right. This looks like a great space. And so it really is about an experience.
So with that experience, do you all have a restaurant? I mean, I know you have the bar part. Can you eat?
You sure can. So a couple of different ways you can do that. We have a great elevated bar snack menu. So we have charcuterie from Spotted Trotter. We have an array of cheeses and jams served with Georgia sourdough crackers. So the theme here is that we try to bring in as many local ingredients as possible, not just local ingredients for our cocktails and our spirits, but local however we can. So we have tea on the menu from Zen Tea. We have coffee from Dancing Goats. We have delicious caramel chocolate covered hazelnuts from Jardy Chocolates. So that is a local Chamblee chocolatier run by Jocelyn Dubuque Gragg. She's awesome. And we also house marinate our own olives and house roast our own almonds.
So all you need to have is a honeybee hive.
Pretty much. And to that end, we have gardening boxes out front where we take all of our fresh herbs and edible flowers for the garnishes for our cocktails. So we're trying to go as farm to glass as we possibly can.
Wow, that is just amazing. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a restaurant, it's a bar, it's an art gallery, it's an event space. It's themed. I mean, it just sounds like an amazing place. So what type of events have you had there so far?
Great question. Well, we've hosted a variety of both public-facing events and private events. In the private event world, I was really surprised to see how many monument birthday parties came in, because as you can imagine, with the last 3 years, it's been really difficult for people to get together to celebrate large gatherings. And so a big group of what we found in the first year, since we opened in May 2022, a lot of birthday parties. So a lot of people are like, finally, I can feel more confident in gathering with my friends and family. Let's have a birthday party. A lot of birthday parties. We're about to host a lot of mitzvahs and corporate events. Corporate loves our space. We have a lot of space, a lot of cool things to look at. It's you walk in and you immediately get that you're in a special place. So that's the private event side. From the public event side, we've been really lucky to partner with some amazing local community partners to host monthly events. So like, we host a monthly yoga event on Sundays with Breathe yoga instructor Sherry McAllister. We work with Read It Again bookstore to do a boozy book fair once a month. So they bring in books and they describe it as a scholastic book fair for adults. So they'll bring in books, they'll bring in craft sets, they'll bring in socks and fun pens and pencils, and it's all usually based on a theme. They'll pick a theme for that month's boozy book fair. I believe last year in September it was banned book month, so they brought in a bunch of banned books, and so they set everything up in the gallery, which is just a really nice backdrop for them to sell their books. So we do boozy book fair every month. We work with two wonderful local female comedians, Amy Brown and Amanda Marks, to do top shelf comedy. So once a month we'll do, sorry, hold on, let me a sec. What is that called? Stand-up comedy. I get to claim mommy brain from now until the rest of my life, even though my child was born 2.5 years ago. But yeah, so we work with two local amazing female comedians, Amy Brown and Amanda Marks, to bring Top Shelf Comedy. It's a monthly stand-up comedy series that we do. We also started working with the Metro Atlanta Art Studio in East Atlanta Village to put on burlesque classes once a month. We really just try to change it up and provide unique offerings once a month. And what's nice now is that we have all of these great community partners. So it's really set it and forget it at this point. It's
Right.
like, hey, what date do you want to come in? Cool. You're on the schedule.
Well, before we started, we were talking about a series you have called Cocktails and Conversations. I thought that was pretty neat.
Oh, I could talk. We could have a completely separate conversation about cocktails and conversations, but it was a great idea brought forth by our general manager, Henry Rosenbaum. The idea is kind of an Atlanta luminary series, right? So bringing in interesting figures from around Atlanta in various topics and have them come in and do a presentation on what they do. So, our very first Cocktails and Conversations was with Atlanta City Council President Doug Shipman and District 6 Representative Alex Wan. The month after that, we had 2 fantastic comic book artists come in.
Oh.
And when we can have an interactive element, we do. So these 2 really talented young men, Dexter Vines and Georges Jonty, they came in and they did a live draw. So Georges does the penciling of the comic book art and Dex does the ink work. So as they were talking about how they got into comic books and, kind of their background, we had our projector and screen facing them. So they were live drawing a piece from The Mandalorian.
Ooh.
That then we just raffled off to the guests who came to the event. So when we can, we like to include interactive elements, but we want to feature it all. We want to work with chefs. We want to work with lifestyle photographers. We want to work with people in Atlanta sports. I mean, we had a great talk with the folks who run Assembly, and they brought an excellent presentation kind of explaining how Third Rail and Gray TV got together and the plans for Assembly, what's already done, what's in the works. It was a really dynamic presentation. It got people excited about them coming in. So again, the beauty of being a big space like this is we get to decide who we want to showcase, and we get to decide what topics we want to talk about. So I want to talk about tattoo art. I want to talk about, like I said, Atlanta sports. We just have, back-to-back champions at the UGA, college football. There's a lot to talk about here. And so that's just one of those things, with something like this, it always starts with who do you know?
Right.
Because whoever you know is going to answer your emails in the fastest time possible.
Right.
And then hopefully, as our name gets more and more out there, we can reach out, kind of further than necessarily our personal sphere and bring in different people to talk on their topics.
Well, you've definitely gave me an idea. I'm a big bourbon fan. So we need to have like an evening with bourbon and conversation.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
You can have, and what's great about that is I'm just like jumping off of what you're talking about, bring in, we definitely want it to be led by our head distiller, Matt Greif, who's an absolute genius. We want him to be obviously the front and center, but let's bring in other distillers who are distilling different types of bourbon. And, let's maybe we were talking about hop sticks before this. A lot of times breweries might age their products in used bourbon barrels.
Oh, yeah, bourbon beer.
Right. So let's talk about where that goes, And there are a lot of things to talk about. One thing that's unique. So we distill our bourbon and rye and corn in the more traditional on-grain method. So what that means is when the grains are cooked up in the mash cooker, then the enzymes break down all the starch to sugar. They go into our fermentation tanks and are fermented with our yeast. That's actually what's known as distiller's beer at that point. Okay. So what you do with the product at that point actually makes it either beer or spirits. So it actually starts the same way, right? Now, at this point, you have all these grain particles from the mash and everything in your distiller's beer. You can either strain all of that out, or you can do what we do, which is we send it all to our 30-foot continuous column still. So as that grain falls through the still, it's collected in a tank out back, and it's what's known as spent grain or stillage. And it's really nutrient-dense grain. So we actually work with local farms to give them the stillage that they can use as animal feed for the animals on their farm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do with spent grain.
Sustainability type items.
Absolutely.
But as you were talking,
I was going to say,
excited. Are you ever going to make beer?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say no. I would say that more likely what we would do is partner with a local brewery like a Contrast Artisan Ales, like a Hop Sticks, to do something together as opposed to doing something on our own. We're all about collaboration.
That'd be very cool.
We're all about collaboration. And so it's more likely that we would collaborate with an already established brewery, a Wild Heaven, a New Realm, something like that, in order to create a collaboration with them.
Well, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Monica and I were talking before the show. When I was in Columbus, Mississippi, I did a lot of events, hosted events constantly, on long events, weeks, 2 weeks, multiple days. So I was actually looking into getting my own customized bourbon barrel. And in having our own with Tennessee Williams bourbon or Columbus bourbon or Discover or whatever it was. So I think that's pretty cool when you're all moving into those different areas.
You can absolutely do that now. You can always come in and talk to our distiller about if there's a flavor profile, if you happen to be a local restaurateur who has your very own secret sauce or secret spice, and you want to create a rye barrel with just your spices in it or some sort of special flavor. We'll do it all. We'll work with you and then that barrel will be yours so that once it's done and mature, we can bottle it for you and you can do with it what you like. So we are kind of a one-stop shop, honestly, in terms of, like I said, collaborating with the community to put out really unique products. Even if you just want to come in and buy one of our full barrels so that every time you come in, you say, I want a glass, but I want it from my barrel, you can do that. We've got, there are very few limits to what we can do because we really want our community to have the most elevated experience that they can have.
Before we sign off, two different things. You have a future event coming up you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
And then any fun story?
Oh, okay, great. So in that case, I'm going to talk about two different events. So I want to absolutely talk about Art for a Good Pause. So this is a great community art show run by SPS Productions. They ran a fantastic event 2 months ago in May. So basically imagine a community art fair with about a dozen or so community artists, and they'll each have tables where they can sell their artwork. Now, what's unique about this is, besides it being, it's a free art show, so come in, have a cocktail, buy some artwork. What's unique about this is each of the artists included in the show donate a piece of art to a special table. And all of the artwork on that table that is purchased, those funds go to the, Planned Parenthood of Georgia. So, like it says on the web, several pieces of which 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Planned Parenthood of Georgia. So, like I said, each artist is required to donate a piece of art, and if that piece sells, that's the money that goes to Art for a Good Pause. There's going to be free food, of course. The tasting room will be open for cocktails. It's just a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon.
Do you bring your dog?
You know what? For this one, we are definitely going to encourage folks. They can stay on we have a very dog-friendly patio. We have a covered patio that has seating for around 30 guests. So come, bring your pupper. We'll bring out a little deli container of water for them so they can have a nice drink of water and stay out of the sun on our covered patio. But yeah, we're big dog fans.
Very cool.
At the distillery. And then I also want to highlight Saturday, July 8th from 3 to 5 p.m. we are doing our first ever distillers tour. So the tour that I talked about through production, that's about an hour long, and that is normally run by either myself or our general manager, Henry Rosenbaum, or our assistant manager, Sam Aronson. And we have good knowledge about how to speak about the production process. But this distillers tour is run by our head distiller, Matt Greif. So it's 2 hours long. It's a much more in-depth look at the process. You can down to, wait, what's the temperature of the water have to be for this particular grain? And he'll know the answer.
Wow.
So it's a really in-depth look at our production process. It also includes tastes of our spirits that the public doesn't normally have access to, which is why it's a really special experience that we're only doing for a group of 15 guests. So I highly recommend snagging a spot. We have a few spots left, but as we continue to get closer to the date, I'm sure they're going to be snatched right up because it's a really unique opportunity.
So if you're interested in this July 8th event from 3 to 5, you can buy the tickets right online, and there's a few left.
You sure can. Yep.
So any great story to close us out?
A great story to close us out. Let's see.
I'm just going to play the video, so you guys can talk about it while you...
Yeah.
I think this place is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're so proud of it. We're so very proud of it. What can I say? A great story. So a fun story from the opening event would actually be the fact that we worked with, here's a great story. What am I even saying? Great story that I haven't been able to mention yet. So there are 7 different spirits in our lineup, and you can see right here in the video 7 different unique pieces of art. So we commissioned a different local artist to create a unique piece of art for each of our spirits, and then that artwork is digitized and placed on the interior label of the corresponding spirit bottle.
We were talking about that before the show, so that's how you get it.
So that's how you get it. And so those 7 pieces of art are forever, immortalized in our gallery. But then you can take that home with you. And the label of the spirit label is made of canvas. So not only does it have a great texture to it, but it also, is connected to the art brand. But to that end, for our opening event, we hired Sky Entertainment. They are a great group of people who can add, entertainment options to events. And so we hired them to bring in a model to be body painted like our Atlanta vodka artwork.
Okay.
So it was a really cool interactive element at our grand opening. So then as she was being body painted and once she was done, she walked around the distillery holding the Atlanta vodka bottle and posing for pictures. So it was really like art coming to life at the grand opening. So that was, I think that was a really fun way to really encapsulate what we're all about in terms of experiences at the distillery.
That has to be, I think, one of the most unique stories to close us out.
Hey, I love it.
So, live art with the bottle art. So that's very cool.
Thank you.
Well, Becky, we appreciate you being here. We'd love to have you back later on when things really start hopping even more.
I mean, anytime. You literally, the fact that you were like, well, we're coming to the end of our time. I was like, I do talk a lot, don't I? So.
It's been fun. And I've been able to ask questions constantly off the different things you're saying.
I love it.
Well, Becky, thank you for visiting our DeKalb Talks Tourism podcast. And we're excited that you've been here. Thanks again.
Absolutely. My pleasure.